Cryptids are those animals that exist in the wild that the mainstream does not believe in, that does not take stock in as existing in our reality or in the multiverse in general, if they believe in that. These are seemingly supernatural beings that most people are afraid to even imagine. They are not just animals, but they are also spirits. They are also dark gods. They are also whispers on the wind. They are hints behind a truth. You must always look past the truth to see them. And if you look from every corner of a truth, just past it, you can gain a grander conception of some of these non-reality beings, non-existence animals, or spirits, or beings. I'll give you a modern example. Slender Man. Seems stupid. Big guy in a tie. 9 feet tall. Very lanky. No face. Wears a suit. And if you look at him for long enough, he gets you. You don't know where he takes you. Where does he take you? Not sure. And there was this German painting that was actually painted over. But when the paint was taken off the front of this painting, there was this multi-limbed, faceless thing that looked like Slender Man. A little bit of a suit, but really arachnid-like, many arms, very slender. No face, same blank face on a round head. And just reaching out with all these really pointy, long arms at a small child victim. And this painting was painted over. Because of this painting and other tales, a lot of people think that Slender Man is German. But I think that cryptids like him, I think it's an egregore, a spirit that had a little bit of basis in reality, but then it became something else when people started believing in it. And when you think belief is just belief, if it's just faith, you're wrong. Belief is also fear. Belief is also that nagging doubt where most of you doubt something exists, but there's that part of you that is always afraid that something does exist, like this thing. That is a very powerful energy source that beings like this feed on. That little bit of doubt that is combined with that almost the most potent fear that's just on the edge of your conception of reality. Just like, what if this thing existed? That is a potent form of fear that beings like this can exist through. Perhaps beings like this didn't exist before our fear. Perhaps they were only a little wisps cast out from the abyss. But then when fear started adding to them, it started creating their framework, their veins, their blood, their eyes, their senses, their limbs, their purpose. So, Slender Man, we're using this example. There's many other cryptids. We're using this example. The worship fear comes from not knowing what he does with those that can't look away and that he gets. And in a way, I think that's those, if he gets people like that, it kind of feeds him. Where it goes is not somewhere, but into him, into it. And the fear intensifies. It's almost like that movie It, or well, the multiple movies of It by Stephen King, just feeding on fear. But unlike that clown that is apparently 3 lights that float around, very unscary once you realize it's just, oh, in another dimension, it's like 3 little lights that dance around. But you can't quite bully doubt that lives on the fringes. You can't quite bully concentrated fear. A lot of people would be angry that I'm saying that, it was defeated by bullying, but something like Slender Man, you're not worshiping it if you don't believe in it. But that's not the kind of pain that it can take. It's impervious to that, because the way it feeds is that little bit of doubt combined with fear on the edge of your conception of reality. Everything is mind. The multiverse, all the universes. We're all very elaborate ideas in a grander mind. We're all minute thoughts serving various functions, something like that, in a grander mind. But there's those things that dance between. Emotion is what floats between persons in this mind, between thought forms that we are. We ourselves are thought forms. There's a space that we don't see that is not space as we conceive it, but a space between being that fear and doubt concentrates at certain points, becomes potent. And a being like Slender Man feeds on those. We can talk about dogmen that guard the barriers between dimensions. There's been a lot of reports of dogmen. Mothman, very alien-like thing, red eyes, seen flying, crucified through the night sky. We can talk about that one Japanese, well, not one, but that kind of Japanese spirit who is a long white toad form like female, but still humanoid, carries water on top of her head. The only way to defeat her is to bow before her with your hands in front of you, and then she must respect you as well, and she bows, and then the water that sustains her pours out. These are a number of different cryptids, of animals that they do. I think that they exist, but I don't think that they exist in the way that people think. The wild, wild animals, wild supernatural animals, those aren't things that just exist as the kind of animals that we're used to, like dogs and cats, horses, cows, foxes, wolves. They can traverse space. They can traverse mind. And they feed on our true vulnerabilities, which is those doubts and fears on the edge of everything that is our conception. Because with the way we conceive reality, it's very confined. The older we get, it becomes a smaller and smaller bubble, or a square, or a cube. I usually think of it as a cube. This is the way reality works. This is what happens when I die. Or maybe nothing happens when I die. If you don't believe anything happens. Gods exist, don't exist. This is what morality is. This is not what morality is. This is the way I am politically. This is the right way to be. There's a wrong political way to be. This is the kind of culture that I exist in. This is who I am. All those things exist within the cube. But there's those things that dance in the shadows around the cube. Those are those cryptids, like Slender Man. It's that unknowing and that fear of unknowing. That's what they feast upon. So they exist not in the wilds of the world per se, but in the wilds of our mind and in the wild of the grander mind. They are the abyss before the abyss, the hiccup before the void, the lover after the death. These are what beings are like that are cryptids, like Slender Man and others. And they're always there, just waiting for us to explore on the edges of ourselves. Explore how deep our fear is and how much we doubt. And then when it frays too far into the abyss, into insanity, there's a hand that comes out to grab it and pull us as the fuel to itself.